Hi, my name is Blad Uran, and I'm an applications engineer at QuantumFlo. And according to Rick Sanchez, the point automation is to reduce cost and labor, so it must be true.
Hello, and welcome to today's episode of This is Automation. I'm your host, Corey Dallas, and today we will be talking with a very special guest, Blad Uran from QuantumFlo. Thanks for joining us, Blad.
Thank you for having me.
So, Blad, as we get started with the discussion about QuantumFlo, which is the company you work with, and the plumbing industry and the state of automation in that industry. Before we do that, I wanted to give you a chance to tell us a little bit about yourself. So can you quickly give us an introduction to who Blad is and what your background is?
Well, I'm Vladimir, Vladimir with a B, not with a V, so I'm not Russian. And my background is it's in electrical. And before using PLCs, which is what I work with every day, I was toying around with microcontrollers such as the Arduinos and the PICs. And I used to use them a lot during my school years, and I used them especially during my senior design class. We used that, and I also used it at home as a hobby.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit more about your current role as an application engineer at QuantumFlo.
Well, mostly I'm in charge of the software development and mostly doing controls, the PLC programming, the HMI programming, but also a lot of R&D, R&D in VFD, variable frequency drives, R&D in sensors, anything from flow meters to pressure reading sensors. Mostly, mostly software development.
Awesome. So you've got a background in microcontrollers and electronics. How did you find yourself in, the automation PLC industry? Have you always been involved in the industry?
Well, I liked microcontrollers from the beginning, but kind of stumbled into this job when I came in. I knew there was I always wanted to do controls. I didn't know it was going to be PLC. Actually, funny story, in the electrical background, you got to take a lot of programming classes such as C, C++, and those are mandatory. And I got lucky. I got lucky in 1 year that I took as an elective. I took a PLC class just to fill up my schedule, and turns out that's what I end up doing. That's what I'm doing these days.
Yeah, that's I think a pretty common story that I hear, because most engineering types aren't taking PLC and automation classes, maybe just one here, one there, a spare elective or something, and then you kind of fall into it and end up doing it for the rest of your life.
Yeah, that's what kind of happened to me. Yeah.
Awesome. So I wanted to spend some time today to learn more about your industry and how QuantumFlo goes to market, specifically, with a focus on technology and automation. So in the interest of having that discussion, can you just give us a quick introduction to QuantumFlo?
Yes, QuantumFlo. So here in QuantumFlo, we pride ourselves to be the leaders in the manufacturing and distribution of advanced variable speed control package pump systems. So what that means is that the key word here is variable speed control. Back in the days, package pumps, well, we also do package pumps. That means that we send a whole skid out already built, and the contractors just have to plug and play. They don't have to do any finessing with it. They don't have to program VFDs. They don't have to program PID loops. They just press the start button and on they go. And the variable speed control means that our system, our control skids have VFDs inside the boxes. We put the VFDs inside a control ventilated box. And because back in the days, whenever you needed pressure, it was just a start and stop go system. So kind of like if you live here down in Florida and then you live on a well water system, you have a pump, a submersible pump somewhere in your backyard, and the pump just kicks on. It feeds a tank, and it has a little pressure switch that has a range, and it would just turn on. And when it's happy, and then it will turn off, and it will turn back on whenever the pressure drops. We don't do it that way. We have a VFD that it turns on and it controls the speed, and it doesn't have to go all full speed. It could go half speed, a quarter speed, whatever it needs to go, and also maintain pressure at the same time at a constant pressure. So the pressure is never fluctuating. You don't want to be in if you're in a hotel taking a shower, you don't want the water to be just spilling back and forth.
Yeah, so there's a couple things you mentioned that I definitely want to circle back to talk more about. But before that, can you give us a brief history of QuantumFlo, kind of where QuantumFlo came from, how it started?
Well, this is many years ago. Early on, my boss and owner of the company, David Carrier, many years ago, saw where the industry was heading, and he used to work for other companies. And he said, "Hey, I want to go on my own and start my own company." And he did that by himself. And from an early start, he adopted the early technologies. He adopted BFDs and he adopted PLCs from the get-go.
Yeah, that's something I find, really interesting about QuantumFlo and where QuantumFlo sits in the market is, it's really rooted in technology and a history of adopting technology and being an early adopter to technology. So we'll talk more about those things. But to give everybody, kind of the same information to work with, get everybody on the same page, you've talked about how booster systems work a little bit, these pump systems. Can you give us a little bit more detailed explanation of, where you would see these and why are they needed?
Yes, well, the name booster comes from the word boost, right? So, like a rocket ship, you're trying to boost something up. So, so whenever a new building is in construction, the engineers come in and they calculate how much water pressure is needed to feed the whole building. And sometimes the water coming from the city is not enough to feed it. For example, here in Florida, we're very flat, and anything higher than 3 stories, you probably need a booster pump just to boost up that pressure. So that's where we come in. Whenever they're building a building such as a hospital, a hotel, anything, a stadium, then they come in, they use our sizing program, and they go in there and we customize the system for them that will meet their requirements pressure-wise.
Yeah, I was just going to say it's really interesting the variety of markets that you guys are involved in. Yeah, really anywhere there's plumbing, right? You may see a QuantumFlo booster pump.
Cold. Yeah, we're cold water. Yes, I mean every building has an HVAC system, but plumbing comes in when the pressure coming from the street is not enough. And sometimes some places like in Central and South America, or even some places down in Texas and Arizona, where they use a tank, what they call a buffer tank, a day tank. Their pressure is 0, so they got to use the booster pump just to boost that water back up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so maybe to break it down to even simpler terms, anytime you go to a hotel, right, there's tons of water consumers, right, especially in the morning, right? You're going to be taking showers, flushing the toilet, washing your hands, and all of those different consumers in the hotel are expecting, a consistent water pressure. So, a booster pump system is making sure that pressure is always available for use by those different consumers inside the hotel, so that when someone flushes their toilet, your water doesn't shut off.
Yep, the same pressure all the time, no matter how much demand is on the building.
Exactly. So you mentioned earlier, how QuantumFlo started in an industry that was, somewhat behind from a technology perspective. You already kind of mentioned the old way of approaching a booster system, where you're using a constant speed pump and then just reducing the pressure through some sort of control valve, which is not very energy efficient. You're always running at 100% and then just wasting that energy, right? So
Correct.
Can you give us just a little more context to what the water plumbing industry is like, and what the automation and technology landscape is like, and then further onto that, how does QuantumFlo compete in this kind of industry where maybe technology is a little behind?
Sure thing. Our industry is very slow to change and to accept new technology, and it's all because the old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That approach. And to an extent, they're right, because new technologies means that you have to train the service people, and you got to adapt them to the new technology. And as an OEM, we also don't like that much turnaround, as we need to support it for many, many more years to come. So to an extent, that's kind of true. But we're spoiled these days in the consumer side, because we get a new cell phone every 6 months, and you expect that to be the same here in our industry, but no, that's not the same, and we don't want it to be, for those reasons, training and adaptation. Another sample is VFDs. I mean, VFDs been around for a very long time. Companies such as ABB, Hitachi, Falcon, they've been making VFDs forever. But you've seen them more and more now in our industry, just because, technology's gotten better, the footprint got smaller, and energy laws came into play, where they're actually demanding, obligating buildings to use them now. Mm-hmm. So yeah, another sample of the technology behind it was since the beginning we've been giving customers this nice big colorful touchscreen for them to use, but they didn't want them. They still wanted to use push buttons and switches, and we said, no, come use this nice little technology. And for some reason, they still wanted to use push buttons. But now, literally, as time goes on, they're adapting the technology, and it's nice to have a nice touch screen with nice pictures on them, I guess.
Yeah. So talk a little bit more to that. How do you approach your customers and try to get them on board with technology, like the example that you gave, just something as simple as switching from push button control to an HMI, which is going to give much more flexibility and control. How do you coach your customers through that?
A lot of back and forth. We have a rep team out there doing the job for us, and they talk to their local engineers, and then we get a spec. We read the spec, and we say, hey, we can do it better, or we can do it this way. And then it's just a lot of communication between our reps and the engineers.
What would you say is the biggest challenge facing your industry right now?
Well, getting everybody on the same page and up to date, just because, like I mentioned before, we get the job, there are the specs, and a lot of specs are just really old, really copy and paste from the HVAC side of things, and we're in the plumbing side, so they think they're the same, but it's not really the same. But after we talk to engineers, they get on board, and they like what we bring to the table. So that's how we get everyone up to speed.
So you would say that the biggest challenge is really educating the industry and getting the industry to adopt new technologies?
That is correct. And like I said previously, that many engineers, if it ain't broke, don't fix it approach. But not all of them, but most of them, they're on board with the new stuff, and like I said, some of the new laws are forced in their hands.
Right.
Just
Yeah.
with UCs and a lot of energy laws, mostly coming from out west, California and whatnot.
So how do you view your company, QuantumFlo? How do you differentiate from a technology perspective in the market? And then can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, we put all from the beginning. We said, okay, we gotta create a program that it's a one fit all kind of program, and many companies' main focus are the VFDs, just because the VFDs have a lot of nice features that could do the job, such as they have integrated PIDs and all that. But we decided, okay, now we need to create a booster operated system software that will work with multiple VFDs, and it's a lot faster because the microprocessor on a PLC has got to be a lot better than the one inside a VFD. And with all the advanced coding you could do with the newer PLCs, especially with some of the newer PLCs, because back in the days, the only way to program a PLC was using ladder logic. And some of the newer PLCs today support the IEC 61131-3 programming standards. So now you can write in multiple languages. They're pretty close to function block, structure test, which is close to like C or C++, whatever. And it makes it more efficient. So PID loops, you can do better PID loops. The customer doesn't have to go into the field and mess with the PID parameters. It's already programmed for them. They don't have to touch anything. We can do better, more complex math. So we can now calculate, we can estimate flow rates without having an actual flow meter installed in the system. So that's pretty good right there.
So all of this is wrapped up in kind of the latest version of QuantumFlo's software. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so everything that we have learned throughout the years, it's all and all the feedback that we get from the field, from our reps and the engineers, it's all in there now. We give them all the bells and whistles that we can give them, and plus more, and it's all standard.
So talk about that new development. QuantumFlo may develop this entirely new software system that you call QFlow 3.0. Can you talk about how long did that take to develop? What were some of the challenges in that development?
Well, it's called QFlow 3.0 because it's a third generation program. Like I said, and this third generation program is under the new hardware that we currently using, which is the BNR hardware. And the reason how we came to 3.0 was actually before that, since we're trying to keep up and keep adding new features and updating the program, we kind of ran out of space. We kind of ran the old hardware to its limit. And at one point we decided, okay, we got to start looking into a new hardware that could do what we're trying to do plus more. So that's how we came across BNR. And we were shopping around other companies, and BNR came in and customized a hardware setup for us to use. We like the all-in-one bundle where the touchscreen and the PLC is all in one, and with a nice like an Intel processor in there, and we were able to do it. It took about a year and a half to actually complete and fully debug the program. And we've been using it, I think it's 2.5 years now. We've been using it and everything's going good.
So tell me what your favorite part of the, either the finished product is or the actual development. What was your favorite thing?
Oh, my favorite part was the development part, just because I got to play with a new toy, and I went from writing everything in ladder logic to now writing it in mostly in structured text. Actually, the best part, the part I had the most fun with was doing the graphical side of things, the HMI part, doing all the little icons, the animation. That was pretty fun.
Yeah, I must say, I think you have one of the better visualizations out there in the market. Do you have any tips or tricks to share?
Well, I use a lot of GIMP and a lot of Paint, but our equipment normally after it's been commissioned sits on the bottom of a dusty, dark basement where all the pumps and everything is, all the equipment is, and nobody ever sees this until they have to do some service. But yeah, we still went through the trouble to make it look as good as possible, as user intuitive as possible, visually pleasing, just because we want to give our best, even though nobody ever going to see it. It's not like one of those Coca-Cola make your own flavor machine that some like Burger King has it, where you just take the flavor and all that. Well, our stuff sits in the basement and nobody sees it, but that's okay. It looks nice. It looks good when we bring it to trade shows and whatnot.
Yeah, I think an important point you brought up there is a lot of these industrial machines, in a lot of cases, especially heavily automated ones like the booster system that you have, you pretty much set it up and let it run. But I think that visualization becomes very, very important in the commissioning phase, and then B, anytime there's service required. So can you talk about how those two scenarios, being commissioning and servicing and diagnostics, how did those inform the design decisions that you made?
Yeah, we put wizards everywhere. So if there's an issue or commissioning, we put a wizard. It would just follow simple steps, very intuitive. You just press what the screen suggests doing. They got to do service and know right away what's wrong or what needs to be done. Commissioning, it takes no more than 20 minutes to complete. Very, very, very user friendly. So it's very intuitive. So our reps, when we bring them in here for training, we do factory training. When we train them on QuantumFlo 3.0, they love it. They catch on right away. We normally don't tell them. We normally break the system on purpose and let them figure it out on their own. And just like that, they can do it just by following some simple directions in the screen.
Yeah, I think that speaks to how important UI and UX is important to visualization design on an industrial machine. I know that it's often an afterthought. Like you're saying, the kind of the standard opinion in industry is, well, it's not going to be used that much, or it's just going to be used in an industrial setting, so it doesn't need to be easy to use. But I think in your development, you took a pretty contrarian approach to make sure that it was easy to use and that it's simple to start up. What kind of feedback have you gotten from the market so far on that?
Oh, they love it. Yeah, that was one of the main points that David Carrier, my boss, wanted to get across. Just because we also, it's not just we also cover parts that we cover the Canada and Central and South America. So some places don't speak English, so that's why we made it very icon based, kind of like your phone, so anybody can understand it.
So can you tell us, what are some of the new things that you're working on right now? What does the future look like for QuantumFlo?
We just finished doing an rainwater collection program. Very big right now. We're trying to move into that area. We're doing a lot of water transfer programs where you have when you got to just move water from one place to another, not not pressure based, but level based. So municipal, something sewage, anywhere where you're trying to bring pump water up or pump water down. We're also trying to implement the new communication standard just because whenever we get a spec, we never know what they want and it's customer driven, so they want to use your backnecks and your Modbus. And I think OPC-UA is just going to combine all of them and just put one into one.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's right.
And it's open. It's free. Why not, right?
Good. So talk a little bit more about communications. I know this is it's a common pain. It's not just something that the plumbing industry feels as far as having multiple different building automation protocols. I think there's an analogous challenge across the industry. So talk about how you see OPC-UA as a solution for that. What kind of problems that could solve?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, you have one building and every little section uses their own little protocol, and you never know what they want. I mean, in the plumbing side, you got backnet and you got Modbus, but then you got HVAC. They could be using something else, maybe Loanworks or whatever, Ethernet. And that's the challenge because you got so many protocols out there. You just can't cover them all, and it'll be a lot easier where you just have one and everybody just follows that one. I think it makes the OEM side life easier, and it'll make the building automation people happy also.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. The standardization of protocols both at the field bus level and building automation level, and even up to the cloud is it's much needed, and I think it's inevitable, right?
Yeah, it's a mess. You got a boiler talking one language, you got the booster talking another language, you got whatever lighting talking another language. It's a mess.
Yeah, it creates a lot of issues with diagnostics, trying to understand what's going on. You end up with all of these protocol conversion cards, so on and so forth. So being able to hopefully in the near future implement OPC-UA as kind of a standard from the field level up could greatly simplify that. And I know there's even some collaboration between BACnet and OPC-UA as far as mapping the information models between the two. So I know that hopefully that's coming in the near future, and we'll start to see some of those painful issues dwindle away. Okay, good. So my big takeaway from our discussion so far is QuantumFlo is a really technology focused company, a company that's really rooted in technology. And the biggest challenge that you've seen so far is just educating the market on how that technology can benefit them, how it's better than what they're doing now, which I know is tough given the if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of mentality that a lot of people have. But I think it's really respectable the way that QuantumFlo approaches technology as an agent for change to better the market and to provide better solutions, to be more energy efficient, so on and so forth. So I think that's really interesting for people to hear about, and hopefully the efforts of education continue to change the market, and the innovative OEMs out there like QuantumFlo are making big changes. They're kind of pushing these changes down to the market, and the market is starting to adapt them. I think people are becoming less and less reliant on specification. I think is something that we've seen in the market. They're more willing to make a modification or accept a deviation to a spec if they understand that the technology is better in some way. So it's really refreshing to hear that there are, like I said, the innovative technology focused OEMs out there like QuantumFlo that are making those changes to make the market better.
That's correct. We're trying to set the standard. I mean, any company could put a pump and a VFD together. I mean, we've even seen some companies trying to copy our general design, but what sets us apart is actually the software. That's the secret sauce.
Yeah, that's another really good point. I'd like to talk about for just a second. You know, hardware at some level is commoditized, whether that's, you know, stainless steel piping and pumps, or whether it's a PLC and IO cards, right?
Right.
The software is really where the magic happens.
Yeah. I mean, the pumps, you know, we use this in-section centrifugal pump or a submersible pump or, you know, induction motor. Everything is, you know, pretty standardized. Anybody can find that anywhere, you know. What sets it apart was the software. And, you know, it took a while to complete it. And I think we did it a lot faster than we were planning to do, just because, you know, the team over there at B&R was very helpful. Everybody was what we call a PLC guru. You know, we used previous vendors, previous manufacturers in the past, and you know, these were big companies, and they always had one or two guys that they knew their stuff. So when we came over to B&R, we quickly find out that, you know, everybody, essentially the whole company, knew their PLC stuff. So that was very refreshing. So anytime I run into trouble or issues, they're just an email or a phone call away.
Awesome. That's really good to hear. And yeah, like I said, I think, you know, you've done a really good job, you know, as the lead for that project to help differentiate the software, to take, you know, a platform, like you've said, and turn it into something unique and special in the market, that's focused on technology and differentiation. That's really good job. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
So if people want to learn more about QuantumFlo, or are interested in learning more about the IQFlow system, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, the best way is just going to our website, www.QuantumFlo with no W at the end, just QuantumFlo.com. And actually in there, we have an online siphon program, which is called IQFlow. And it's there for anybody to use, especially engineers. They just sign up in an account and they could put in a project. If they have a building, they just put in follow a few steps, some few numbers, and then we'll actually calculate our system for them, just for that building, customized for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, tell me a little bit more about that, because like, again, with QuantumFlo being technology focused, there's automation not just in the systems, right? There's actually automation in the business processes as well. So talk about how that like sizing tool and opening that up to the end user works.
So, you know, since, you know, the taxes and this past. So if you ever used the H&R Block or QuickBooks, whatever program you use, it's just like that. You just follow steps and you fill in the blanks and you keep pressing next. Very easy to use, very intuitive. And it will give you some systems for you to pick, and you choose what system you want, and it will work. It will guarantee that it will work for you.
Yeah, that's really awesome to put the power in the hands of the customer to size out their system, and then that automates the process, and you know, you can take that information directly and start building, right?
Yeah, and it's just like IQFlow is very icon, very graphic based, so it's very easy to follow no matter where you are in the world. And it's there. You just got to sign up, make a new account, and we want every engineer to just give it a try and use it. Give it a try.
So, Blad, do you have any closing thoughts to share about QuantumFlo or about the development that you've worked on, or any of the other topics that we've discussed today?
Yeah, just to wrap it up, QuantumFlo, like I said, we're very technology focused, and we're going to keep pushing the limits and keep working on the program, updating and trying to raise the bar for everybody else to follow. And we're going to keep going ahead and bringing exciting and new things to the market. That's all.
Excellent, Blad. Thank you so much again for joining the conversation. Really enjoyed it. In future episodes, we're going to be diving into more exciting topics and more common questions in automation. We've got episodes lined up on topics like machine vision, IoT, robotics, and much more. There are many more special guests and special topics that you'll definitely want to keep an eye out for. So make sure you subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can do that by just searching This Is Automation. If you enjoyed this episode, please let us know by leaving a review and a comment on Apple Podcasts and YouTube. And if you'd like to get in touch with me or have an idea for the show, please pass that along to me on LinkedIn or by email at automationpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks again for listening, and we will see you next time on This is Automation.